Now, I hope you can hear the session today. It is peeing down with rain at the moment. Let me show you. Today I'm going to train planche press to handstand. I'm going to do straddle planche press to handstand, but I'm going to show you guys how I train for it, how I warm up for it, and then if you want to join in, that will work really well. I have already done a bit of a warm up. So this was my warm up. I just warmed up the hips. I went through some compression work, thoracic opening, normal hip flexor stuff, normal quads, hamstring, and lots of wrist prep as well. Now, to train this, ideally you should have a strong two-arm handstand, obviously, and at least a tuck planche. You can use these same concepts for the crow, so lowering up and down to crow, but ideally for this one, because it is planche press, we want to at least have a tuck planche and at least have a strong two-arm handstand. So now I'm just going to warm up the scapula with some scapular push-ups. I'm really working on that protraction, leaning the shoulders forwards in front of the hands. So I'm externally rotating the hands a little bit more than I normally do in a handstand. Shoulders on top of the hands, I'm going to protract, so pushing around the upper back and then just really push forwards. While I'm pushing forwards, I'm pushing up always in that direction. Go to retraction. Now when I go into retraction, I'm coming back towards the shoulders being on top of the hands. When I protract, I go forwards of the hands. Now the same thing, but up on the toes. So retraction, shoulders back on top of the hands, protract, round, push forwards. Okay, now I'm going to just warm up my handstand. So just a few kick up entries, just check everything feels okay. Now I'm going to play with open and close on the shoulder and a handstand. So this is open shoulder, this is closed shoulder. Open, close. So I'm going to do that while I'm in the handstand. So this can be done freestanding or with toes against the wall. So open shoulder, standard handstand position, closed shoulder. Open shoulder, closed shoulder. So if I was doing that against the wall, you just go chest to wall handstand. Externally rotating the hands. Open shoulder, closed shoulder. Open shoulder, closed shoulder. And when I'm opening the shoulder, I'm also getting into that protraction position as best I can. Now I'm just going to go into a tuck planche hold. Now I'm going to hold for about 20 to 30 seconds. If tuck planche is maximal for you, so you're only getting about 5 to 10 seconds, do the same thing but have tiptoes on the floor. So we don't want to be going to max now. This should be a conditioning hold. This should be quite comfortable. So it's definitely not like a 1 rep max. It's less intense. Next, I'm just going to do the eccentric press to handstand. Now I'm going to not use flexibility now. So this is good if you're already tight because you don't use flexibility anyway, but we want to try and make it a little bit more planchy, but I'm just trying to come down and kiss the toes to the floor. It's going to be some sort of tuck press, but I'm going to go a little more froggy. So I'm going to let the legs come a little bit to the side, which will make it a touch easier to come down. So legs out a little bit to the side, bring the knees down first, around the back, feet touch. So very controlled but quite fast eccentric press handstand in a frog position. Now to condition the up as well, so I'm now just going to jump through a tuck press to handstand. Again, through a bit of a frog position, so you can have the legs a little bit further apart. And I'm going to go quite slow, even though it's a jump. And then the eccentric again on the way down, but even slower. Now with the press to handstand, I would be using the wall to slow it down even more if you don't quite have the control to do it freestanding. The tricky bit with the planche press to handstand is you need the head and the shoulders to come forwards a bit more, and the wall gets in the way. So unfortunately, I wouldn't use the wall too much with this one. You could go into a bent arm version and use like coming down to a crow, which might help you make it a little bit more accessible for the people that don't have the freestanding control. So it's a good test for my microphone now because it's peeing down with rain. So I'm going to do that bent arm version now. So that will probably be the level for some of you. So you're just doing the eccentrics, you're playing around with that variation of either using a very slow eccentric and kissing the feet to the floor, or using a slight bend in the elbow to make it a little bit of a hybrid between the lower to crow or the crow up to handstand. Try and go as straight arms as you can, try and protract as much as you can. Ideally we're aiming for this. So this will be the lower two tuck planche. Now if you need to, if you don't quite catch at the bottom, you could kiss your toes to the floor very slowly, very lightly, and then try and lift back up into your tuck planche hold. So that would look something like this. So I'm coming down, knees towards chest, starting to protract forwards. If I need to, tip your toes to the floor, get your position, back up to your tuck planche. Ideally, we wouldn't be doing the toe touch. We would come from the handstand to the tuck planche. So knees towards the chest, protracting, starting to close the shoulders as needed to keep balance. Tuck planche position, and hold. Now, if I was doing sets of those, I would be doing 1 rep, resting as much as you need to, and trying to aim to get about at least a 5-second hold in the tuck planche. I wouldn't be going for like 10 to 20-second holds because that will take away energy. And if you can do that, obviously trying to go to a more advanced tuck position, so like a flat back, or even start to open to a high hip straddle. Now we can think about going back up through the tuck planche to handstand. To start with, I'm going to do it from the toes on the floor. I'm not going to pause in the tuck planche, and I'm just going to carry on all the way through to handstand. Now you can make that a little bit harder by holding in the tuck planche for 2 or 3 seconds before you press up to handstand. And then I'm just going to repeat the process for me in straddle planche. But if you're somewhere in between, you could go for a flat back planche. You could go for a high hip straddle planche, where I'm sort of in that grey area between needing to have a high hip to lift up and down out of planche to handstand, where ideally I'd have an open hip, or go for something like a half lay position or something. Obviously we've got the variations. You've got your thumb in a planche, tuck planche position. I have my flat back position. I have my frog. I have my frog. I have high hip straddle, so my butt would be up in the air in this position. I have open hip straddle. You have half lay, which would be this way around, so like that. And we have variations of full planche, which I can't do. So first of all, I'm just going to do the eccentric handstand to straddle planche. Okay, now I'm going to attempt to go up through straddle planche. I'm expecting this to be a quite high hip straddle position to go up. Now, hopefully the rain didn't mess that up too much for you guys and you could hear me okay with the microphone I've got in. Thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated. I'm going to continue on with this workout now and see if I can improve the quality of that straddle press to handstand. If you have any questions, stick them in the comments below or send me a message. And I'll speak to you next time. Thank you.